Namaskar doston. Today we are going to understand the merits and demerits of the parliamentary form of government. But what do you understand by the parliamentary form of government? How is it different from the separation of power principle of the presidential form of government? Because in parliamentary form of government, the basic idea is of collective responsibility. Every member of the Council of Minister and the Council of Minister collectively is responsible towards the House of the people. And House of the people is directly chosen by the people. They are elected by the people. Hence, it becomes the government of the people, for the people, by the people. So friends, India along with many big democracies follow the system of parliamentary form. United Kingdom, Italy, Japan, they are the torch bearer of the parliamentary form of government. And today we are going to study about the merits and demerits of this system. Now, before I start, I would like to tell you about the free one-to-one mentorship of Shri Ram's IAS. If you have any doubt in your preparation, you can come and meet our expert mentors. The only thing which you have to do is to go to the link of this video, fill the form, and we are going to approach you. Now, let's study about the merits and demerits of this system. What is the merit of this system? Merit क्या होगा parliamentary form of government का? देखिए दोस्तों, दिस इज अ रिस्पॉन्सिबल गवर्नमेंट. कहने का मतलब है जो कलेक्टिव रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी का प्रिंसिपल मैंने अभी आपको बताया, विच इज वेरी डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द सेपरेशन प्रिंसिपल. अगर तीन ऑर्गन्स हैं गवर्नमेंट के, जुडिशरी है ऑन वन हैंड, लेजिस्लेचर इज देयर एंड एग्जीक्यूटिव इज देयर, दे आर टोटली सेपरेट फ्रॉम वन अनदर. लेजिस्लेचर का एग्जीक्यूटिव के साथ कोई इंटरफेरेंस ज्यादा नहीं है. दैट इज व्हाट इज द बेसिस of the presidential form of government. But when it comes to the parliamentary form of government, the executive is made from the legislature. First, the legislature is elected, the House of the People is elected, and the largest party which forms the majority forms the government. And the leader of that party, the largest party which is forming the majority in the House of People, becomes the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister makes his council. And he becomes the leader of the Council of Ministers. Now this Council of Ministers, headed by the Prime Minister, aids and advises the President of the country, and every decision of the government is taken in the name of the President of the country. So this is the basic idea behind the parliamentary form of government. And in this government, you need to have the strength in the House. If you do not have the strength in the House, if you lose the majority, then the government is going to fall. And hence, we call this as responsible government. Why? Because there is collective responsibility of each member of the Council of Ministers and the Council of Ministers collectively towards the legislature. Okay, now moving forward, broader representation. If you see the parliamentary form of democracy, there is broader representation. So many political parties along with the diverse sections of people are represented in this kind of democracy. Whereas if you see the presidential form of democracy, usually is not this much diverse. So the representation and its broadness is far more compared to the presidential system. Coming to the third one, effective accountability. Now, it is upon you to understand that each and every decision which is taken by the executive in a parliamentary form of democracy is somehow controlled by the legislature. Whether it is the legislative decision, you have question hours in the parliament, you have 0 hours in the parliament, the no confidence motion in the parliament, debate, deliberations, along with it the committees, the parliamentary committees which work. All these things suggest some kind of control which the legislature has on the executive. When it comes to the financial position of the executive, all kind of expenditure which the executive wants to do, the budget passing and other things, have to be approved by the House of the People. There has to be demand for grants, and the voting has to be done on the demand of grants, and without voting, without the passage of that vote, no demand of any expenditure can be fulfilled. So there is a huge control of the legislature over the executive, and hence we can say that the accountability here is very, very effective. Compare it with the presidential system. The president wants to spend it on a policy. Usually, the legislature cannot control the president from doing so. But here, in the parliamentary form of democracy, you can see the effective control of legislature over the executive. It prevents authoritarianism. If you see the presidential system, there is a huge possibility that it may result in personality cult or authoritarian government. In the parliamentary form of democracy, the authoritarianism and its chances reduces multifold because of control of the legislature over the executive. Whereas in the presidential form, where the legislature does not control the executive and there is accurate separation of power between the two, the president can turn into a personality cult or the president can turn into an authoritarian regime leader. Flexible system. If you see, the parliamentary form of government is quite flexible. If a no confidence motion is passed, you don't have to actually go and conduct the election all over again. The only thing which you need to do is to choose another leader who can form the majority in the Lok Sabha and you will get another leader. So there is a kind of flexibility which is there in the parliamentary form of government. It's more stable as compared to the presidential form of government. Stability because the backing comes from the legislature. All the members of the Council of Ministers has to be the member of the legislature also, of either house of the parliament, whether it be Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. So the system is quite flexible. Now, harmony between the legislature and the executive. Now, to an extent, the executive also controls the legislature. The agenda of the house is set by the cabinet, isn't it? So, a contribution is given by the executive in the legislative matters as well. What kind of bill needs to be brought? Which bill needs to be given priority? What kind of money bill and financial bill should be introduced? What kind of amendments which needs to be made? All these things are generally done by the executive, by the sitting government, the Council of Ministers and the Prime Minister. So in a way, the executive also controls the legislature in a parliamentary form of democracy. So because of this control of one body over the other and the other body over the first one, there is a kind of harmony between the two. Usually we do not see deadlocks between the legislature on one hand and executive on the other hand. देखिए मुद्दे होते हैं बट मुद्दे सुलझ जाते हैं, विरोध होता है अपोजिशन द्वारा बट वो सुलझ जाता है, डेडलॉक नहीं हो जाता है. In the presidential form of democracy you usually see the deadlocks also. Okay, so this is the merit of the parliamentary form of democracy in India. Now let us look into the demerits also. What are the demerits? तो सबसे पहला है दोस्तों unstable government. Why? Because of so many defections happening. You always need a majority to form government in a parliamentary form of democracy. If there is no majority in the House of the People, or if it's a state government, if there is no majority in the state legislative assembly, you cannot form the government. Now let's say the total membership of the House is 500. To form the government, a single party or a coalition of party would require 251 minimum seats. And they try to come to a number of, let's say, 255 and they form a government. But what if one party of the coalition having 20 or 25 members withdraws the support? The government of the day falls. And that is the reason why it's called as an unstable kind of government. Usually you will not see this feature in the presidential form of government, where once a president is elected, he remains there for 4 years until he is impeached. And the strength in the Senate or the strength in the House of the Representatives have nothing to do with the election of the president. That is what happens in the presidential form of government. But here, if you see in the parliamentary form of government, hugely the government of the day depends on how much majority their party have brought in the legislature, especially in the Lok Sabha. So, unstable government. Another one, possibility of executive domination. As we have discussed here, there is a harmony between the two. Sometimes the executive also controls the legislature, but then what happened? Now there have been news and there have been reports that in the parliamentary form of democracy, the cabinet is taking over the work of parliament and parliament is being marginalized. Now that is a big demerit, isn't it? The cabinet is doing most of the work. The cabinet is having most of the power, the most of the strength. Not even the whole council of ministers, but out of that council of ministers, only the ministers of the cabinet rank, 5 to 7 ministers along with the prime minister hold the major power. What kind of amendment needs to be done, what kind of changes needs to be brought, what kind of laws and ordinances are to be made, policies and schemes to be made are all decided by the cabinet, and the say of the other ministers and the say of the parliament is considerably very less. The number of bills which are given for reference to the parliamentary committees are also less. You know, the number was around 60 to 70% in 1970s and 80s. Now, the kind of bills which are given to the committees are only the controversial ones, and the percentage has decreased to 20 to 25%. Only 20 to 25% bills are referred to the parliamentary committees. Hence, we can very well conclude that the cabinet is becoming the super parliament here. And hence, you can see the possibility of executive dominance in a parliamentary form of democracy. Moving forward, political defections and opportunism. Horse trading, you may have heard of this word. See, what you need here, if the total membership of the house is 500, you need 251 members to form the government. Now, if you have 255 members and one political party which has like 25 members and is the part of the coalition is lured to the other side, they have been given money to withdraw the support they are giving to the present government. What will happen? Because of opportunism, political instability is going to happen. Okay, and hence we can also say that political defection and opportunism is a big issue in the parliamentary form of democracy. We have seen it in the state governments at the national level, that the governments, the stable governments, although through the coalition, lost their majority just because somebody has pulled out their support. Some party has pulled out their support. It compromises the quality of ministers. Yeah. Now, in a parliamentary form of democracy, all the members of the council of ministers have to be the member of the legislature also. That simply means that no minister of the government of India can be an expert if he is not or she is not the member of the legislative, the House of the People or the Rajya Sabha. What I mean to say here is, in the presidential form of democracy, you do not require a minister or a secretary of the state or the secretary of defense to be the member of the legislature. So you can always pick up an expert person to lead that particular portfolio. But what happens in the parliamentary form of democracy? All the portfolios are given to different ministers, and those ministers have to be compulsorily be the part of the legislature also. An elected member of the or the nominated member also of the House of the People or the Council of the State. So, you know, the choice is quite limited. You cannot go on choosing the experts. The experts, if they want to be the ministers, have to be the part of the legislature also. So, in a way, we can say there is a compromise on the quality of minister in the parliamentary form of democracy compared to the presidential one. Delay in decision making, yes. Why? Because everybody have to be taken under one roof before taking the decision. The opposition parties have to be there, the members of the coalition, everybody have to be taken under one roof, and then the decision have to be taken. That generally do not happen in the presidential form of democracy, but is a very big feature of the parliamentary form of democracy. Why? Because you have to maintain the government, the stability of the government. For that you need to bring in the coalition members, or else they will withdraw their support. You need to talk to the opposition also, because they also have several tools such as committees, no confidence motion, zero and the hour, and other kind of parliamentary tool to control the executive. So they also needs to be brought into the fold. So there are multiple things which needs to be done, and because of that delays are usually the outcome. The policy paralysis thing which we have seen in India for a very long time was also because of the parliamentary form of democracy. We can conclude that. Another thing, lack of separation of power. Of course, complete or accurate separation of power is seen between the legislature and the executive in the presidential form. But if you see in the parliamentary form of democracy, generally you will not see clear-cut separation of power. What will you see is the dependence of the executive on the legislature, the collective responsibility of the executive on the legislature, the executive coming out or originating from the legislature. Each and every member of the executive is the part of the legislature. So you do not usually see separation of power. So that is the big demerit, and there are many more demerits and merits of the parliamentary form of democracy. But we can also conclude that in India, this system of parliamentary form of democracy is very much suitable. It is according to the needs of our society. It is according to the diversity of our society, because of huge representation it does. And also historical legacy is there. We have been following this system since a long time, when Britishers used to rule our country. And that is the reason why I can say that parliamentary form of democracy is the best suited form of democracy to be practiced in India. So thank you very much for joining me in this video. We have studied about the merits and the demerits of the parliamentary form of democracy. Have a nice day and Jai Hind.